So there's a new streaming service coming to town, and this streaming service is called Peacock. And Peacock is going to be a very interesting streaming service because it's not going to be like a lot of other streaming services out there on the market. The nice thing about Peacock, which is coming very soon, is Peacock streaming service is going to be a service that's going to have multiple tiers of subscriptions. But the coolest thing about this by far is the fact that Peacock, out of all streaming services, is actually going to have a free tier. Yes, I know this is actually a pretty amazing news, taking in consideration how many other streaming services out there, whether it be Netflix, whether it be Hulu and things like that, really don't have another tier that is a free tier. Most of the time you either pay for the premium content or you don't pay for the premium content. So it is actually very interesting the way that Peacock is actually going to be handling their streaming service. Now, if you don't know about Peacock, Peacock is pretty much a service, I think, that's ran by, yes, NBC. Of course, NBC does own Peacock. So you are going to have a lot of different options when it comes to how you want to watch your content on here. Of course, if you do go the freebie route, you are going to have some limitations. Of course, two of the biggest limitations with the free version of Peacock are indeed going to be that, one, you are going to get ads, but that's to be expected. They got to pay the bill somehow. And then two, you are going to get less content, so not the whole, you won't get access to the whole library of Peacock, unfortunately, if you do go for the free tier of this. And then they are going to have other tiers, like for instance, they are going to have a Peacock premium tier for $4.99 a month, which actually gives you more content, no ads, better quality when it actually comes to the streaming. And then they're also going to have another one alongside the $4.99 a month subscription plan. They're actually going to have another one that's actually only going to be going for $9.99 a month. So you can see their pricing here is kind of competitive when we look at things like Netflix or Hulu. I think they're actually taking this in the right direction by having all these different tiers for every single person. And you may be asking yourself, why would a company ever want to do a free tier when they can get people to pay for this? And there are people willing to pay for premium content. That is true, but more options are always better, and that potentially does mean they are going to be getting more money in the bank if they did tiers like this, especially a free tier, just because even though there are that set group of people who do want to get their content for free and they're not willing to pay, they'll still be making money off the ad revenue, of course. And then on top of that, there are people who will get the free version of this and see, well, maybe my show's not on there, so I have to go to another version of Peacock. Or maybe, for instance, they're tired of the ads, because a lot of times people are just fed up with advertisements and they don't want advertisements ruining their day. It bothers them and things like that. So the biggest way for them to just get rid of them without doing anything crazy would just be to go ahead and pay the company. And of course, you always have those people who are just willing to pay for it outright anyway because they want to support people and they're just generally willing to support people. So I think with all these different tiers that Peacock is actually going to have, I think this is going to be a very successful streaming service without a doubt. I think the only thing about this is we'll have to wait and see how many TV shows and how many movies that they're actually going to have on this. But just looking at this thumbnail right here, it does look like it's going to be very promising. Also taking in consideration, again, time and time again, this is going to actually have a free tier, and I just can't stop thinking about how awesome that is and how cool that is for people who don't want to really invest in this, or maybe they just want to get their feet wet in this streaming service to see if this streaming service is for them, and then maybe they can move on to a different tier. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing DreamWorks Rec, which actually looks very promising. Friday Night Lights apparently is good. They got Superstore, of course, they got one of the best shows. 30 Rock, of course, NBC Universal, probably going to have a lot of good content on there. So it's actually going to be a very interesting streaming service. And as we speak, of course, we have so many streaming services to choose from. What can you really choose from? And it's actually, if you think about it, again, good that they're actually incorporating this free tier model, just because there is so many other options out there. If they only had this one tier out there that was actually their premium content where you had to pay for it, it might be harder for a lot of people to justify paying for this when you have to, of course, take in consideration the internet that we live in. There is so many subscription services, whether it's for movies and TV shows, whether it's for things like gaming, or whether it's things for like music subscription services. There's just so many subscription services out there on the market. how can you really choose this one over other ones? And sometimes just having all these different subscription services that you're paying on does add up over time. So it is a really good strategy, again, that they're doing this. And I'm probably going to check the free tier out of this, honestly, to see if this is something for me or something not for me. But overall, it really does look promising, and I can't wait for this thing to come out. I think it is coming out sometime this month, so it is dropping in July. Granted, it's not coming to every country in the world. I think it's going to be in certain regions and certain countries only. So it is going to be very interesting when this thing actually comes out. Now, the next story I have for you guys is actually about Nintendo again, because Nintendo has been in the news quite recently, and it looks like they are back in the news. This time they have another partnership with Lego, and this is not a new news story. Well, it kind of is a new news story, if that makes sense, but for a little while now, Lego and Nintendo have had some type of partnership where they wanted to make Mario toys, and that's been the case. And I actually think that's a brilliant idea, because Nintendo, a lot of people associate with kids in the first place, and then on top of a lot of people associating Nintendo with kids games and things like that. Of course, people also associate Lego with kids as well. So you take the combination of the type of games also that Nintendo makes and Legos. I think that's a really great fit for Nintendo and for the Lego company. I think it's a win-win. A lot of people may see the Lego Nintendo toys and may actually want to go out and buy Nintendo games, and a lot of people who see those Lego toys that see Mario may be invested and want to buy those Lego toys, so they may end up buying those Lego toys as well. But now we actually got something new in the mix. We actually have a Lego buildable NES console comes with a playable game. So it's not just like a little Lego mini set that's based off of the original NES, or based off the original NES with a TV and an NES and a controller and a game. It's actually going to be very functional. Apparently it only comes with one game, so I don't know how often you're going to be playing this thing, but this thing actually does look very awesome and very unique. And it looks like there's actually a video on the internet about this, and it looks like this is actually playable, which is the crazy part here. And I must say, looking at this whole NES Nintendo set, it does actually look pretty awesome, to be honest. This is kind of a dream come true. If I would have seen this as a kid, I would have definitely jumped on board with this thing, because this thing just fits me as a person. I love Lego. I think Legos are just very cool. They're very creative. You can do a lot with Legos, and I also love video games, and of course I love Nintendo as well. So overall, this is actually some very exciting news here, that you'll be able to get this. And it looks like the Lego set for the NES and the TV and all this jazz, it does look like you will be able to actually use the TV. It looks like there's a crank on the TV, and as you're actually cranking this on the TV, it's actually making Mario move in the game, like you're actually simulating playing Super Mario Bros. 1. And I actually think that's absolutely fantastic, because it's not just something that you just look at, it's something you can actually interact with. And a lot of times with Legos specifically, once you build your Lego set, you really can't do much with Legos outside of them just being for like a prop, or just putting them on your bookshelf or in your room and calling it a day. So it is nice. This set does have more functionality than what I originally thought it had, and overall I'm pretty excited for this set, because it's actually a pretty cool NES Lego set for Nintendo, and I may have to check this out depending on. Oh, it looks like it's actually going to be quite expensive. I was sitting here saying I might have to check this one out, but unfortunately this may not be for my blood. I understand that they have to pay a premium for this thing, because of course we're talking about the Lego brand, so it's not some knockoff brick company out there. And also we're talking about Nintendo here, so probably to get the licensing from Nintendo, and of course on top of that they are using the Lego brand, and since those two go hand in hand, of course, and that they have some kind of partnership, of course they are going to be fairly expensive. And we're actually talking about $229 here, so you can see this thing is just very expensive for what it is, of course, and that is kind of unfortunate, because a lot of people may see this thing and want this thing, but at the price they're charging, it may be only for the collectors out there, for people who are willing to pay for this at $229 US. That's just very expensive. That's actually more money, if you think about it, than the Nintendo Switch Lite and potentially like an indie game or something like that. So that's very expensive, but it's still a cool, really cool product. And I would have never seen the day where Lego and Nintendo would partner up. But of course, it makes sense. Video games and Legos are kind of things that kind of make sense together and kind of fit perfectly. I know when it comes to video games as a whole, this is not the first time a company has partnered with Lego. If you know anything about Legos, you may remember that Lego did a partnership with Minecraft, and Minecraft and Lego actually went hand in hand, and that one actually makes a lot of sense just due to the fact, of course, when you look at what Minecraft as a game is. What is Minecraft? Minecraft is pretty much a video game form of Lego, so you're basically building stuff in Minecraft. So to have that come true with Lego sets, that really does make a whole bunch of sense. So overall, this is some very awesome news that we do get a brand new Lego set with the NES theme. You have an NES again, you have a controller, a game, and a little TV with a crank on it, and they're all made out of Legos, and this is actually some pretty awesome stuff, to be honest. And now the last one for you for today's episode, I do have some brand new news about charging when it comes specifically to smartphones, because it looks like each and every year we get closer to that dream where we can charge our smartphones extremely fast, and it looks like Vivo's next gaming phone will be able to charge in less than or around 15 minutes. Yep, and that is not something to be taken lightly, because that is extremely fast. So maybe you take a shower and then you get cleaned up and things like that, and you're pretty much good to go, and you're pretty much topped off when it actually comes to your smartphone. And who would have thought we would be living in a world where battery really doesn't matter anymore? Sure, batteries don't last all day for some people, or even last a week, which I personally wish batteries would last a very long time. I wish they would last like 24 hours, or maybe even a week, or maybe even a month. But I understand that modern day smartphones have a lot of power under the hood, so it makes sense that they have to power the CPU, they have to power the display, they have to power all these different things. And a lot of times these modern day smartphones are just power hogs, just seeping battery constantly. But it is nice, I guess, that even though batteries don't last all the time, that last a long time, it is nice that we do get things like true fast charging, and it looks like fast charging is getting better and better. Now, there have been articles out there, I want to make it clear, that do talk about fast charging specifically, and they actually talk about the effects fast charging actually has on your battery when it comes to your smartphone or to any device that has a lithium-ion battery. And basically what happens is, apparently when you use fast charging over time, apparently it can degrade your battery faster than if you were using like a regular slow charger. But honestly, I think for most people it's not really going to be a big deal. And even though it may, according to what I read on the internet, it may actually degrade your battery faster, I don't think for most people they're actually gonna be able to notice the degradation that fast. I heard even after a year, you only go down to like 92% of your initial battery's charge for your smartphone's battery or for your device's battery. So that's not that bad, taking in consideration how fast you can actually charge your device. In some situations, it is nice to actually do that. And how long are you actually keeping your smartphone in the long run? I think nowadays a lot of people out there aren't keeping their smartphone all too long. And even if you kept your smartphone for 5 or 6 years, I think at that time your battery's still going to hold enough charge to where you won't be that mad, and most likely still you're probably going to get rid of your smartphone regardless before the time the battery actually finally poops out on you. I know there are situations where people just don't want to upgrade, maybe they don't have the money to upgrade, but I think eventually you're going to have to upgrade your smartphone anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And it is probably more awesome that we do get things like this, charging your phone's battery completely in 15 minutes. That's actually pretty mind-blowing, because if you look back decades ago and someone was to say, look, you can charge your smartphone in literally minutes, I would be like, no, there's no way. Smartphones take 2 to 3 hours to charge in most scenarios. So this is actually some pretty mind-blowing stuff. So it looks like Vivo has a charger that's going to be there's going to be 2 different chargers apparently there's a 120 watt, yes. And the crazy thing about this 120 watt charger is the fact that this charger alone is actually going to be faster than most laptop chargers out there, even with like the current MacBooks, for instance. I think they're only like 80 watt or something like that. So to have a charger that's 120 watt is actually mind-blowing, and it's more impressive that the batteries are even stable and can even be charged with 120 watt, just taking in consideration how much wattage you're putting in the phone and how fast you're putting it into the phone. You would think these phones would explode or these batteries would malfunction, but it is very impressive technology. And then there's going to be a 55 watt charger that's going to charge a little bit slower, but it's really not that big a deal because you'll still be getting very fast speeds when it actually comes to these. And it's actually funny we're talking about all this different technology when it comes to fast charging, when it comes to chargers, but of course going back to those rumors about the current iPhone, apparently the upcoming iPhone, the iPhone 12 is not supposed to ship with a charger at all in the box, and we're still not sure if that's going to happen or what the case is with the upcoming iPhone. So it is actually very interesting to say the least. But yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to see the future of fast charging and charging in general, because now I can see maybe we have a future where we don't even charge our phones anymore because they charge so fast. It's like, well, I don't even notice it. And even if batteries don't last all day or last a long time, at least when your battery depletes, when you're done using it, you can charge your phone extremely fast. It's kind of like the battery never died in the first place, but things like 15-minute fast charging is absolutely insane. And yeah, I've never seen the day, but this is actually some pretty exciting news. And yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up this episode. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.